virtue. What was the reason behind it? Only my being the promised Messiah and preaching against their concept of Jihad and their bloodthirsty Messiah and Mahdi, upon whose advent they had great hopes of loot and plunder. This became the reason for their enmity. But they should know that the concept of Jihad, as believed by them, is not correct. The first result of it is to destroy human compassion. The argument that Jihad was permitted in earlier days, why would it be abandoned now, is not correct. I have two answers to this question. First, this thinking is not proper. Our Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, never raised sword against anyone except against those who used it first. They killed innocent men, women, and children without mercy. They murdered with such brutality that to this day tears flow while recounting those events. Second, even if the concept of jihad was the same as the Maulvis think, it no longer applies in this day and age. It is written that at the time of advent of the promised Messiah, battles of sword and religious wars would end. Because the Messiah would not use sword or any earthly weapons, as his weapon would be his supplications. His steadfastness would be his sword. He would lay the foundations of reconciliation and bring together the wild and the humble. His would be the age of coming together, kindness and compassion. Alas! Why would they not consider that 1300 years ago the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, used the axiom, Yaza'ul Harb, for the promised Messiah. This means that with the advent of the promised Messiah, the battles would end. And the following verse of the Holy Quran also points toward it. Ponder over Sahih Bukhari, book of the traditions of the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, which is considered the most accurate book after the Holy Quran. Read it carefully. O scholars of Islam and Maulvis, pay attention. Verily I tell the truth. This is not the time for jihad. Don't disobey the Holy Messenger of God. The promised Messiah has already come. He has issued forth his edict. Abandon the religious wars that are fought with weapons of blood spilling. Not giving up this carnage and preaching such concepts is not the way of Islam. The one who accepts me would not just stop preaching such concepts, but would consider them evil and worthy of God's wrath. Regretfully at this point, I have to note that at one end, the ignorant Maulvis concealed the true concept of jihad and prepared ordinary men for plunder and killing, and named it jihad. On the other end, the clerics of the church did something similar. They produced thousands of publications, journals, and flyers in Urdu, Pashto, and other languages, claiming that Islam was spread by sword, and distributed them in India, Punjab, and frontier regions. As a result of this dual testimony of Maulvis and clerics of the church, common man progressed in his barbaric instincts. In my view, it is essential that our beneficent government should prohibit the clerics from this lie, the result of which is agitation and rebellion in the country. With these lies of the clerics, it is not possible that people will abandon the religion of Islam. But as a result of these sermons, people will always be reminded of this concept of jihad and come out of their tranquility. With the advent of the promised Messiah, it is incumbent upon every Muslim to give up jihad. If I had not come, there could have been some excuse for this misconception. But with my advent, you have become witnesses of the appointed hour. Now you have no excuse for using swords for religious battles before God. One who seeks and studies the traditions of the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, and the Holy Quran, can clearly understand that the method of jihad, adopted by the ignorant and violent masses of this day, is not the jihad of Islam. These are merely bad desires of their reproaching self or wishes for paradise that have spread among the Muslims. I have just mentioned that the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, was never the first to pick the sword. Indeed, for a long time he suffered at the hands of the non-believers, and showed such patience that was not possible for common man. Similarly, his companions also upheld this lofty principle. As they were commanded to bear the atrocities and show patience, they demonstrated it. They were trampled upon, but did not complain. Their children were cut to pieces before their very eyes. They were persecuted with fire and water, but did not resist evil, as if they were an innocent baby. Can anyone bring forth an example from the followers of an apostle where they did not retaliate, even when they could do so because of a divine command? Can anyone show a group of people that was able to resist and had the numbers and means for it, and still restrained themselves for 13 years in the face of a merciless and bloodthirsty enemy? The restraint of the Holy Prophet and his companions was not a result of weakness. In fact, in that period of restraint, his companions were the same men who were with him after the permission of Jihad. Sometimes 1,000 men defeated an army of 100,000 soldiers. This was to show to the world that their patience in Mecca was not for any weakness or frailty. They suffered bloodshed and persecution, and laid down their arms before God's command, and presented themselves for slaughter like sheep. Indeed, this supreme patience is beyond human capacity. We can examine the history of human race and the prophets. Nowhere shall we find such high values among the followers of any prophet. When we hear legends of such patience in previous times, immediately the evidence points towards the lack of means or valor. But the fact that a group of brave warriors is persecuted, and their children are killed, and they were attacked with spears, and yet they don't resist it, this is the bravery that transpired for 13 years among the companions and the Holy Prophet. This restraint in the face of dangerous tribulations, which continued for 13 years, is unmatched. If one has any doubts, he should bring forth one such example from among the previous believers. It is worth remembering that at the time of severe persecution of the companions, our Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, did not suggest any scheme to avoid it. He repeatedly asked for patience. If anyone suggested resistance, he was stopped. "I have been commanded to be patient," he said. Until the permission for defense was granted, Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, always preached forbearance and tolerance. Now you can try to find such patience among the people from the beginning to this day. If it is possible, try to find a similar example among the followers of Moses or disciples of Jesus. In short, Muslims possess best examples of patience, high morals, and abandoning the evil. It is extreme ignorance and misfortune that these values have been abandoned. Ignorant Malvis, may Allah guide them, have deceived the public in many ways. This particular course of action has been declared heavenly. This is a clear transgression. It is cruel and against the human conscience. A person is walking down the street, minding his own business, and we don't even know him or his name, nor he knows us, and yet we shoot him in order to kill him. Could this be an act of virtue? Is this righteousness? If this is virtue, then beasts are better than men. All praise to Allah. Verily, they were righteous and filled with the spirit of apostles. God commanded them not to resist evil in Mecca, even if they were torn to pieces. With this command, they became like harmless children, docile and gentle, as if their hands had no strength and their limbs lifeless. Some of them were murdered in horrible ways. Their legs were tied to 2 camels, and the camels were run in opposite directions. They were shredded like a vegetable. Sadly, Muslims in general, and Malvis in particular, have ignored these events. They behave as if the whole world is their prey, as a hunter seeks his prey in the jungle and follows it carefully and then shoots. This is the example of most Malvis. They have not read the lesson of human compassion. For them,